two names that we've been called, or two definitions that that La Republica has tried to apply to us. The first one I want us to deal with is the one of secession. They've been calling us secessionists, and I just wanted us to take some time and clarify to people the lie that is in that name calling, because we are not secessionists. And I know there've been two leaders of Ambazonia. One, a prominent lawyer, Gojidinka. I think he took some time to clarify who the secessionist is when it comes to the unity of La Republique and Ambazonia.
The country that has seceded from union is La République de Cameroon, which has seceded. They declared their secession on February the 4th, 1984. It is they who have seceded. And we say you must follow your secession to the logical conclusion by pulling out of Ambazonia, or we have to stage a liberation war. It's a decolonization, not a secession. We are trying to decolonize ourselves from a secessionist country which is imposing its rule on us after they have seceded. Please, have this in your mind in order to hit back at those who say you are secessionists. They are the secessionists. They have seceded. And we are asking them to pull back, having seceded. Thank you.
The other one that they've called us is that we are terrorists. I think Siseko, in response to Paul Biya, clarify who the secessionist or who the terrorist in this conflict has been.
What is a terrorist? What are the actions of a terrorist? A terrorist is a person who goes out and kills people indiscriminately. A terrorist is a person who forces citizens of their nation to leave and go on exile. A terrorist is a person who goes in the dark of the night to maim people, to rape girls and to kill them. If this is a definition of a description of a terrorist, then Mr. Biya, Mr. Issa Chiruma and all his cohorts are the real terrorists in this crisis.
So let's take the secessionist thing first. You only secede from something where you've been won. You understand what I'm saying? You do not secede from if two parts come together and then the two parts are separating or need to separate. There is no secession. It is two coming together. Do you have anything to add to this before we continue?
Yeah, I mean, you have made that argument, and the argument that you just made that we are not seceding. I think our dear brother Gojidinka made a mistake there to even state that La République was the one seceding based on their presidential decree of 1984, because La République cannot be seceding from something that was never won.
Well, this is what Gojidinka said. Gojidinka said in 1961 we were supposed to come together as a federation. Mm-hmm. And that the federation really did not take place.
It was not even a federation to start with. They called it Federal Republic of Cameroon, but it wasn't a federation since Ahidjo had the power to appoint and dismiss governments in Buea. A federation, the government of each state manages its own affairs. It is, by its own constitution, appointed or deposed according to its constitution.
Mm-hmm. But let's assume that the federation took place, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Then there was West Cameroon and then there was East Cameroon. Mm-hmm. La République dropped its name of La République du Cameroun, and Southern Cameroon dropped its name of Southern Cameroons. Mm-hmm. And he takes some time and explain this in international law, mm-hmm. that the two countries die and a new country is born. Mm-hmm. And that new country was the Federal Republic of Cameroon. Mm-hmm. In 1972, that union was broken. Mm-hmm. But he says that Ahidjo break it, but kept something which still shows that there were two people that came together by calling us the United Republic of Cameroon. Mm-hmm. It still has that connotation that there were two parts that came together.
Yes.
In 1984, Paul Biya came and seceded mm-hmm. from that United Republic and went back to its original name, which was supposed to be buried when we two came together to form a new nation.
In 1985, the lawyer Dicker protested that the constitution had been violated, and he produced a document called a new social order. It was on the basis of that document that he was detained for 9 months.
By that, he's saying that the seceding partner in that union was La République du Cameroon, not the Southern Cameroons. And so when you secede, you allow Southern Cameroon to have no other choice but to go back to its original name.
Yeah, so my problem is the word secede in what you have just described. Because when you say secede, what you're actually saying is that this is something that was one, that now part of it is seceding, because that's what secession is. When the Biafran people in the Federal Republic of Nigeria tried to go their own way, that was separating. That was seceding.
That was secession, yes.
What is happening today in Spain, in Catalonia, because these countries have defined boundaries, international boundaries.
As one people.
As one people.
One country.
So when you try to go out, like Catalonia is trying to do now in Spain, and carve Catalan out of the Spain, the country Spain.
The traditional Spain that the whole world has known,
yes,
from the beginning.
Yes. That is then seceding. Where I tell you that I have a problem with that is that, remember, in United Nations Resolution 1608, in that resolution, it was said we are going to gain independence by joining La République du Cameroun. And those two entities are going to be two separate states in equal status. It did not say we are going to be one. There is nowhere in that resolution that it said we are going to be one. For us down the road now to start thinking that somebody is seceding. You see where my argument is? Mm-hmm. So that is the problem.
So you're trying to say they formed a confederation.
It was a confederation, and it was said it was never supposed to be one. Never.
Well, now that you mention it, let me say that in that during the plebiscite, the people of Southern Cameroons voted in that plebiscite to join La République, and that joining was defined.
There are quite a number of people who do not know that there is a 15-page document explaining the meaning of each joining.
Yes.
There were only 8 items that we're supposed to share with La République.
Yes.
We're not supposed to become one country and this so-called one indivisible. No, there were only 8 items that we're supposed to share with La République.
Page 13 of the manifesto, it states out the powers which the federal government has right to interfere in. Mm-hmm. It states them. There are only 8. Mm-hmm. Okay. Only 8 subjects where the federal government may legislate in.
You mean the federal government of the two Cameroon?
Yes, that's why I call it a confederacy. Okay. A confederacy, the Cameroon Ambazonian Confederacy, the authorities of the confederacy may legislate in only these 8 matters.
And what are the 8 again?
They are public freedom, nationality, national defense, foreign affairs, higher education, immigration and immigration, federal budget, post and telecommunications.
The union that we're really supposed to be a merge and become part of, who can think I was Nigeria. With La République du Cameroon, there were only 8 items that we're supposed to share. And Gojidika again does take time in explaining the 8 items that we're supposed to share. Now we have to find some time and actually have those 2 alternatives and share with the rest of the public, because it's a document that was printed and was used for the campaign, and that's what the people of Southern Cameroon voted for. They never voted to go and become Francophones and let Francophones come and kill our government and take over our country, and now going around killing our people and calling us secessionists.
Outside these 8, it is written that in non-federal matters, the states have exclusive competence. So there is not going to be any place for conflict of authority in non-federal matters.
And what are some of those non-federal
Now
matters?
let me bring them out to you. You compare this with what we had with Nigeria. With what we had with Nigeria, this is what the federal authorities would have exclusive competence. You look at them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I will get them here.
Now, aviation, external, borrowing, currency, and coinage. Do you hear currency in this one?
No.
Huh?
No.
Now, Copyright, customs, and excise. Do you have customs and excise in that one?
No.
All right. Defense and police. That's the defense is where that's what you have in that one, which there is concurrency between us and them on defense. Then you have external affairs, external trade. Nothing in that one about external trade. Immigration and immigration concurrent. Incorporation and regulation of companies. Insurance, shipping, mining, and minerals, including oil and natural gas. That was a federal matter. In our own, it's not mentioned.
See, we don't even have this knowledge.
Well, naval, military, and air forces. Is it mentioned here?
No.
Now, nuclear energy, patents and trade, post and telecommunication is mentioned there. That's where we have any concurrent jurisdiction with Yaoundé. Trunk roads, company taxes, wireless broadcasting, and so on. These are things exclusively
Run by the state.
for the states. Then go add more. These ones here, antiquities, arms and ammunition. Did you hear it there? In the one with Cameroon?
No.
Bankruptcy, census, commercial and industrial monopolies, combines and trust, labor, industrial relations, all this added to these other things would be within the exclusive jurisdiction of Buea, except those other 8 where Buea authority can be supplanted by the federal authority. So we had a choice between being absorbed into Nigeria, where we have nothing. In fact, as far as Nigeria is concerned, once we got into Nigeria, we would be able to deal only with primary education, cooperatives, and agriculture. But in this other one, it is the reverse. We had everything. That's why it was a confederacy between Cameroon and Ambazonia.
We were never part of these people on the framework of how this thing was designed, the structure of it, and everything. We were never one. We were never meant to be one. And we had our own international recognized boundaries. And remember, that is the reason why La République du Cameroun and France were one of the countries that voted against Resolution 1608, subset 15, against our independence, because they never wanted us to be an independent people.
In our system, in the system that was operating in Amazonia, you had what you call public accountability. Commissions of inquiry. I called for commissions of inquiry, and the government was bound to put 3 commissions of inquiry. I was just a practicing lawyer. You could call for a commission of inquiry into so and so. If the Amazonian government was in existence, they would have asked for a commission of inquiry into the use of oil money. And that is why it has been necessary to crush that loud talking group of people.
But that resolution of the United Nations went in our favor. Our boundaries were all set. We were an international country, international entity recognized by the international community. And we acceded to independence by joining these people with specific parameters of what that structure and unit was supposed to be.
The United Nations adopted it and put it on this plebiscite manifesto as the second alternative. That is what our people voted for. The second alternative being a confederacy of sovereign nations, just like the European Union, where you have a European Parliament there which coordinates and harmonizes policies within European countries on things like immigration, agriculture, defense, and all this. That's what is happening in Europe. But nobody goes to tell Britain how many soldiers you should have, how many air forces, and so on. So each one has his business. They have their customs and excise. Each one has his currency and so on.
So we never became part of these people. And there is no way anybody can explain any form of secession from what we are trying to do with La Republique. If you want to use any kind of adjective, it will be separation.
That was how it was supposed to be. And that's what we were presented with by the United Nations, and that is what we voted for. Question is that what we got? No.
No, absolutely.
So we voted for this, and all we are asking is what we voted for should be given to us. They proposed it, we accepted it. That is what they call a social contract between us and the international community.
So what you were challenging in 1985 was even, I mean, I know in 1985 you wrote the social order.
Yes, in 1985.
Right. So you
in 1985, I had not seen this document.
Okay.
I was only dealing with an interpretation of the law of 1984, 84/01.
Okay.
I call it the Dissolution law, because that law dissolved the illegal union between Buea and Yaoundé.
What Gojidika is saying is, okay, let's go with your fraudulent position or the fraud that you've been perpetuating, because even with the fraud, there should still be some logic in it.
That is a question for which I'm now in exile. Interpret, comply with your own law. He promulgated it.
You mean Paul Biya?
Yes. Paul Biya asked him, comply. That is why we're asking them, comply with your law. Get out of our country according to your law.
Mm-hmm.
Even by the logic of that fraud, they still succeed, not us.
Yes, they still left. They separated. Let us stay with the that defines, because part of what is happening to our struggle is that people have been defining who we are and what we are trying to accomplish.
And it's totally void of the facts.
Yes, and we are not going to let that happen.
Yes.
If you listen to VOA, John Fundi was on VOA, Ebenezer Apanga was on VOA, and I think Bobga has been on VOA, and this guy on African Nightline keeps pushing this thing. You go to BBC, they keep pushing it. You are secessionists and this and that. Well, those people, we are supposed to tell them exactly what.
Now, we're not secessionists.
Yes, who we are and what we are trying to accomplish. So I'm not going to entertain any kind of definition, somebody trying to box us into this argument. No, it was not. You have to look at the definition of this word. What that word means. It means there is an entity, and part of that entity is trying to break away. Secession is breaking away. But if two people come together, if you get married to your wife or a woman get married to the husband tomorrow, and for some reason they don't want to live together anymore, what do? They just secede?
No, they divorce.
They divorce, and that divorce is what? It's separation.
Yes.
God took us into that slavery, and God is bringing us out whether they like it or not. When did you imagine a government, they sit down and pass a law, believing that they are now trying to erase the what they call Anglophone problem. There should be no trace that there ever existed another country. Little did they know, God was trying to get them to revive the sovereignty of that country. Because when two people form a partnership, and that partnership is called Ambe Chotu Partnership. When it is dissolved, and Ambe is re-establishing a business of his, the partnership dies. Mm-hmm. Automatically, Chotu is independent of that. It's like a marriage. Mm-hmm. When you divorce a marriage, one man does not remain married. They become all free.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that Cameroon is a country built on lies, and when you put out the truth, it contradicts the system. There was a time I told Pamuna in his face, say politicians and leaders usually tell lies everywhere in the world. But when they tell these lies are intended for the audience to believe, but not themselves. But we have reached a stage where the leaders are beginning to believe in their own lies. That is the problem in Cameroon today.
So there is no way somebody is going to come and try to change the English language because they want it to fit something that they want to push. So journalists, and I am asking our people, anytime somebody puts a microphone in front of you, and if the first word that comes out of their mouth is secession, you better just stop them. Tell them that, please, you might want to tell me what secession is before we go ahead. And let them define what secession is for you, and then ask them if that fits the context, the historical context of our relationship with La Republique.
Yes, and what I also find interesting there is that these people, they all come and say, there should be a dialogue where you go to the root cause. The root cause, you cannot start the root cause even in your own dialogue with us by calling us secessionists.
Yes.
No, we are not secessionists, and that's what I'm trying to clarify here. And I'm glad that you very forcefully made that point.